Today is a day that all Southern Cameroonians supposed to be in black, because all our suffering started on this particular date, 11th of February. Today is 11th of February, the day the United Nations Organization and Britain decided to frustrate the people of British Southern Cameroon.
Hello and welcome to TF8 Analysis. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.
We cannot mingle with our brothers. If we want to go and see our brothers, British Northern Cameroonians, we have to show visa and passport before we go to them, in which we have one culture, one people. Divided by who? By the United Nations and the Britain. This is what we have to fight for. Not killing our own, destroying our own property, frustrating lives, and forcing many of our brothers and sisters to go to French Cameroon for colonization, for assimilation. And many of them are being assimilated. They are manipulating them and killing us, frustrating us, pushing us under poverty line. It is time for us to reverse. Today is 11th of February 2023. Today is being celebrated in Cameroon as a National Youth Day all over the nation, Cameroon. And today, the 11th of February, is the day Southern Cameroonians or British Cameroon was forced by the United Nations Organization and Britain to join other countries instead of gaining their own independence, as other trust territory were gaining their independence. Today is the day, 11th of February, that the people of Southern Cameroon chose to join marginalization, chose to join people who consider them as third-class citizens, chose to go under a oppression and repression regime. Today is a day that all Southern Cameroonians supposed to be in black, because all our suffering started on this particular date, 11th of February. Today is 11th of February, the day the United Nations Organization and Britain decided to frustrate the people of British Southern Cameroon by asking them to join others. Today is the day. And today we are going to talk here on TFA Talking Point. We are going to focus on what actually happens on this particular day, 11th of February. 11th of February is the center or the origin of the Anglophone Crisis. The Anglophone Crisis started on the 11th of February 1961. And here we are going to talk about it. I'm going to give some brief history about it. I'm going to summarize everything from the Germans, Cameroon, right up to when the 11th of February 1961 came in, or what happened, but I'm going to summarize it. The only thing I'm pleading with you is listening to the end of this video. You understand something little concerning the Anglophone Crisis, the origin of the Anglophone Crisis. If you quite remember, if you are a history student, you discover that Cameroon was colonized in 1884 by the Germans. They colonized Cameroon, and Cameroon was under them. During the First World War, the Germans were defeated nearly all over in Africa and other parts of the world, and their colonies were taken away from them, and Cameroon was included. When all the German colonies were taken away, it was given to the League of Nations, which was created after the First World War. And the League of Nations took this territory as a mandated territory. And as a mandated territory, they could not go directly to govern those territories. So they decided to give it to those who succeeded in defeating the Germans in those territories. And in Cameroon, it was the British, the French, and the Belgians who were there. And then when they decided that, okay, one person should, nobody was willing to take over that territory all alone because of their selfish interest. The French want it and the British want it. But the British wanted just a small portion of it in order to join it to Nigeria for a reason only known to them, which was obviously a selfish reason. And the French took the giant portion of Cameroon, the greater portion of Cameroon. That happened in 1922. And when the French took their own territory, they called it Cameroon. That was the French Cameroon. And then the British took their own small portion of the territory and divided its own small portion of the territory into two, calling it the British Northern Cameroon and the British Southern Cameroon. And they were governing these nations together with Nigeria. And French Cameroon was all governed alone. This is what actually happened. And when, after the Second World War, the League of Nations was abolished. After the Second World War, the League of Nations was abolished. And then replaced with the United Nations Organization. That was in 1946. The Second World War ended in 1945. And the League of Nations abolished in 1946 and replaced with the United Nations Organization. When the United Nations Organization took over office, they decided to create what was called the United Nations Trust Territory. And this Trust Territory, Cameroon, British Southern Cameroon and French Cameroon were included in it. And all, they were under the United Nations, a trusteeship council. Meaning France was not having absolute power over this territory, and Britain was not having absolute power over this territory, but they were governing it through the United Nations Trusteeship Council. And through this, they were to prepare this territory toward independence. And then French Cameroon gains independence on January 1st, 1960, without British Cameroon. British Cameroon was not attached to them. They gained their own independence on 1st January 1960. And British Cameroon was still under the administration of Nigeria, who was administered by British. And then Nigeria gains its own independence on 1st October 1960, some few months after French Cameroon. And then this particular territory, British Cameroon, now was at the middle, in between Nigeria and French Cameroon, and was still fighting for its own independence, fighting to know its status. And several discussions with the United Nations and other committees, nothing was going ahead. Nothing was moving. After the independence of French Cameroon and Nigeria, there was a big question of what to do with the British Cameroon, in which, if selfishness was not in place, this territory could have gained its own independence, just like any other trust territory. Because British Southern Cameroon is the only territory that gains independence by joining others. All other territory of trust territory gains their independence fully. As the colonial master of Nigeria, the British desire for the two territories, the British Cameroon and Nigeria, to join together, to be united together. That was their desire. And that they were the people behind that British Cameroon should not gain independence, but they should rather join Nigeria. And they were influencing the United Nations Trusteeship Council. After some discussion, would force the United Nations to decide. The discussion started since 1959 about the fate, about the statute of British Southern Cameroon. And then the United Nations finally decided what to do. They decided to set a question for the people of British Cameroon to gain independence. And then for them, with the selfishness of the British government, they never joined the territory together, its own territory together. They divided the territory into two. When it comes to decisions making, to this plebiscite, they were supposed to let British Cameroon vote as one people, but they divided them into two to have several votes, meaning they considered them as two separate territories, British Southern Cameroon and British Northern Cameroon. And then they set a question to them. And the questions were, that was the United Nations referendums that took place on the 11th of February 1961. That is the decision they finally took. And the question was, do you wish to achieve independence by joining the Independence Federation of Nigeria, or do you wish to achieve independence by joining the Independent Republic of Cameroon? At this time, 1961, 11th of February 1961, French Cameroon already gained independence, meaning it was an independent territory. That is something I want to make it clear. So these are the two questions that were given to our brother, to our first father, the British Cameroon. And then the vote was in different parts, not joined together. They divided the territory because the British wanted by all possible means to have part of Cameroon to Nigeria, and they succeeded. Because naturally, they were supposed to vote as one person, one country or one territory, British Cameroon. But out of their selfish interest, they wanted a small part of it, and they succeeded in gaining it, the British Northern Cameroon. The options of independence was not on the ballot paper. It was not given. Only these two questions were given. Either they achieved independence by joining Nigeria, or they achieved independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. The option of independence, their own total independence, was not given to them. And this was because of one man, Andrew Cohen. He was the British, a representative to the Trusteeship Council, the United Nations Trusteeship Council. He was the man who influenced and decided that the questions of independence should not feature. And he corrupted many Southern Cameroonians and some Africans to support his point. And that is what happened. That the options of independence was not given. Only two. Either you have achieved independence by joining Nigeria, or you achieve independence by joining French Cameroon. And then now we are at the result of the referendum, or the plebiscite. The result of the plebiscite. How was the result? British Northern Cameroon voted in favor of joining Nigeria. 59.97% of the population of British Northern Cameroon voted to join Nigeria, and 40.03% voted to join French Cameroon. And in British Southern Cameroon, 29.50% voted in favor of Nigeria, while 70.50% voted to join Republic of Cameroon. The British Northern Cameroon officially became part of the northern region of Nigeria on 1st June 1961. And today, they form the part of Benue, Adamawa, and Taraba State in Nigeria, our brothers, British Northern Cameroon. They form part of this territory state in Nigeria, Borno, Adamawa, and Taraba State in Nigeria. They are there till today, right now, as we are speaking. They left because of the selfishness of Britain under Queen Elizabeth. And in British Southern Cameroon officially became part of Cameroon, and they created two federations. And British Southern Cameroon was now known as West Cameroon, and then it gained their own independence on 1st October 1961. you discover that if you look at the result of the plebiscite, you discover that if it was a general election, British Cameroon could have voted to join Cameroon, all of them. The British Northern and British Southern Cameroon could have win to join French Cameroon. Because according to the result, the total, those in favor from the British Northern Cameroon and from the British Southern Cameroon in favor of joining Cameroon is 110.53%. And those who in British Northern Cameroon and British Southern Cameroon who voted to join Nigeria was just 89.47%. Meaning if it was a general election, all the British Cameroon could have joined a French Cameroon. Could have joined French Cameroon, their brothers, from origin. That they were divided because of colonization. They were divided because of the selfishness of United Nations and Britain. And that is what we call the 11th of February. That is what happened. And what the suffering today our brothers are suffering in Nigeria is because of this decision that was taken. The suffering today that we are suffering in the hands of French Cameroon under the leadership of President Paul Biya is because of this decision that was taken, imposed on us, Southern Cameroonians, on the 11th of February 1961. That is all. The marginalization we are crying. There's more than 6,000 people who are physically, brutally killed by the military of French Cameroon is because of this decision that was imposed on us on 11th of February 1961. Oh, if these people were not selfish, we would have been at this point. British Cameroon could have gained its own independence on that particular day, 11th of February, if the third option was given. And that is what I keep on calling on all Southern Cameroonians, that we can unite together to gain our freedoms without killing any of our brothers, without burning down our own property, without destroying anything that belongs to us, because we have suffered a lot. Since colonization, since 1884, under the Germans, we were being maltreated. During the First World War, many of our brothers were killed. The Second World War, many were killed. Under the mandated territory, many of our brothers were forced to do a forced labor and do terrible things. Under the transition territory, the same thing. And when it comes to choice, different people sit. Europeans decided on our behalf what our fate should be, our status should be. And that is what I keep on calling on all Southern Cameroonians. If we join our hands together and disturb the United Nations to answer to us why they decided to let us go this way. All the trust territory gains their independence without joining any other one. Yet only British Southern Cameroon, only British Cameroon got independence by joining another person. Their own choice and their own freedom to preserve their culture, to preserve their language, to preserve their inheritance were being divided. And our brothers today are answering Nigerians while we are answering Cameroon. We cannot mingle with our brothers. If we want to go and see our brothers, British Northern Cameroonians, we have to show visa and passport before we go to them, in which we have one culture, one people. Divided by who? By the United Nations and the Britain. This is what we have to fight for. Not killing our own, destroying our own property, frustrating lives, and forcing many of our brothers and sisters to go to French Cameroon for colonization, for assimilation. And many of them are being assimilated. They are manipulating them and killing us, frustrating us, pushing us under poverty line. It is time for us to reverse this. Because if all 8 millions, whether it's remaining by 7 millions now, because many have been killed, if all can stand up as one person and say the United Nations, wherever it is, whether you are in Europe, whether you are in Africa, whether you are in which part of the world, you decide and say, we are going to stop the United Nations in all embassy, all headquarters of United Nations in all countries, even in their headquarters, for them to ask and answer our question why they allow us go this way. On the 11th of February, we are going to have an answer. We are going to have an answer. As we are killing our brother, that is what they pray for. That is what they wish for. That is what they decided. If we do it, we are going to achieve something at the end. Not killing our brother. Gun will not lead us to anything meaningful and beneficial to our own people. War and killing, gun, will not take us to our ancestors. Will not unite us with our brothers in Nigeria. It will not. But dialogue, negotiation, peace talk, meeting the right people will get us to the right point. Thank you very much.